someone put in the chat then, why do we have to give you a cut-off time? You don't have to give me a cut-off time, right? But then don't tell me you're a big football club if you're going to wait 10 years and spend all this money and just be happy with not winning anything. You can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways. You're either invested for the story, right? And it's like, oh yeah, look at this process. 6, 7, 8 years we waited and we finally won it. Yeah, brilliant, right? Or you say, we're a big club, we are accepting this, get out. You can't have it both ways, man. You can't just sit there for 10 years. It's 5 years into a process, bro.
And do you know what's mad? When people say it took Klopp 5 years, it took Sir Alex Ferguson 5 years. Do you know what Klopp did? He did unbelievable things with Dortmund and Mainz. Do you know what Sir Alex Ferguson did? He did the unthinkable with Aberdeen, right? Before he took the jobs of those two clubs. Man United and Liverpool took the two biggest clubs in England. Arteta's walking in without it.
As well at Liverpool, like Carabal's had that in his early years on that.
Yeah. Oh, mate, I haven't got to that yet. Trust me. Yeah, I haven't got to that. His first year, he got him into the top 4, and then he started to win trophies straight away. Yeah, now, rightly so, Mikel Arteta deserved credit for winning the FA Cup. Okay, absolutely he did. But since then, he's spent that 4 years, who, by the way, is now the second longest serving manager in the Premier League. Yeah. No, he's not. He's the third, Thomas Frank, but he's because he had one season in the Championship with Brentford before him. So other than Pep, Mikel Arteta's had actually more days in charge than anybody other than Thomas Frank. And then the next one on the list is Marco Silva with Fulham, right? So Mikel Arteta, other than Pep, has been there the longest now. So he's had his 5 years. He's now the longest serving manager alongside Pep Guardiola in the Premier League. And we are going backwards. Now, some people are saying they want us to see us go backwards again before they believe that this guy is not right because of the adversity and because of the factors that have come in, mitigating factors that have been brought into the red cards and the referees and the injuries and all that. Cool. If you want Mikel Arteta to stay at Arsenal, I really don't care about that. That's fine. I don't really care who the manager is, right? For me, you've got to prove you're good enough. And I think he's proven now for long enough that he isn't good enough to get us across the line. He might be good enough to get us challenging. Definitely good enough to get us top 4. And this is where I leave it. The Cronkies are more than happy with that. Because the process was to get back into the Champions League. The process was not to win the Premier League or the Champions League. That was not the end goal for the Cronkies. It was for the fans. And I believe it is for the players and the manager. But for the Cronkies, it's to get into the top 4. And that's why he's on £15 million a year and getting a contract extension. And that's just facts.
There's a super chat that relates to that from Twisted Bubba, who says, are we witnessing Arteta's or the club ceiling?
I think we're looking at the ownership's ceiling, which is we're here, we're done, we're finished.
And some of the fan base's ceiling.
Yeah, well, clearly, so
not
all
this,
of us.
This might be some of the fan bases here. They're happy to be here. If
Bro,
they
look at that fan who comes to me. Look at that fan who come and spoke to me. Success is not about winning trophies. Success is not about winning trophies.
And that's listen.
It's for entertainment.
Yeah, but listen, I ain't got a problem with that. If that's what they want to say, no problem in it. But then that's their ceiling. This is their ceiling.
Hang on a minute, though. Hang on. See, this is what. Sorry, Obi. He said this is where it's so weird, right? Success isn't just about the trophy, because you could win an FA Cup and still want your manager sacked in the right context. But it isn't also just about the journey, because what's the journey towards? It's winning the trophies. It's a combination of all those things. And that's what I find so enthralling about these debates. You've got a group of Arsenal fans where nothing matters other than the trophy, which I think is crazy because you can't win those trophies without the other elements being there in the first place. City didn't become Centurions and treble winners and Four Peters without a journey to get there. It's impossible. They didn't go snap like that. However, people that are like, I love the journey, but it doesn't need to have an end destination. I don't get that either. I think both those opinions are a reductionist argument in that way. There has to be an end result, but you also, I don't think, can ignore all the elements and building blocks that go into making a successful team or athlete. I find both those conversations weird. To put it bluntly, they're weird conversations because they're actually both wrong. That you need both of those things, I feel, especially when you're Arsenal, Chelsea, United, City. I was going to say Tottenham, maybe not. Liverpool. There is, of course, the journey and the story is an important part. And I've heard City fans when they've won big trophies go, I can't believe we're here. We've done this. I remember being in League One. I remember this happening. I remember that happening. I remember when we lost this final, when we lost this game. And then when you win that trophy, it's like all those painful moments in Champions Leagues. I've heard the interviews. I've seen it. That is talking about... So any City event, I go, no, it's not about the journey. Well, you're lying if you're saying those things at the same time. But the point, like where we are, Man United are right now, I hate where we are. But one day we'll win again. Again, history dictates that will happen at some point in the future. These bad moments often make the winning even more enjoyable in some respects. But that's because you want to get to that result. The idea of I just want to feel like we're in a good project, that's not enough. I don't get it. I really feel like that those groups have become so polarized. It's almost about their ideology winning out as opposed to the club being successful. It's kind of strange to me. Very, very strange. This here says, Arteta sexuals are the most abusive lots you will ever see. Always dishing it out, but engage in ridiculous pearl clutching when you give it back. I think there's a lot of abusive people online in every direction.
There is, yeah, either way.
In every direction, it's crazy. Slot will have had the same time with the midfield.
I don't know what that means.
I don't get what that means, my friend. Also, Dan, both those managers were making finals.
Facts.
Yes.
Winning trophies, making finals. Facts.
Yep. Any of you fraud would love Teta at your club. Stop capping.
Oh, wow.
Well,
wow.
Potsy's got him. Potsy's got him.
I've got him. Dan, what I like is, he's called himself Declan Beckenbauer right straight away, so that's mad. But any of you frauds would love Arteta at your team. Stop capping. I asked, and you people know what I do on my channel. I have all sorts of fans on. Not one person has said they'd have Arteta at their club. And I speak to all 19 other clubs, by the way. Not one of them would have Mikel Arteta at their club, which is crazy. I don't know if you would tell.
Again, I think that's disingenuous. I don't think he's a bad manager. But I do think now he should be judged on what he wins. So I compartmentalize these things. I think he did a very good job, along with Edu in your board, taking a broken club in mid-table that hadn't won a league title or been in a race for a long time. And over a 3-year period, they built a very good team that was challenging for the league, playing good football, and kind of did it against the odds because you guys, I remember the graphics of you guys being scrubbed out the top 6, etc., etc. You were Banter FC. I can compartmentalize that and go, that was a good achievement. I think that is an achievement within football. The same as if Ipswich stay up this year, for the context of that club, that is a good achievement. I believe in that. Some people don't, but that's my opinion. I can also now look at the last 2 seasons and say, in those 2 seasons, Arteta has fouled to win major trophies with a team that I believe over the last few years has been in the top 2 in the Premier League 3 seasons running. If you're 2 of the best teams, if you're one of the top 2 teams in the Prem and you don't win any of the domestic trophies, that's a failure. But that failure doesn't undo previous things you've achieved. And I think that it's a lack of honesty in the conversations for me. So I wouldn't not take him at Man United. I think there's a very talented coach in there. What remains...
Great question.
Do you know what? I like again, we've got Amorim now. I'm bought into it. I'm sticking with him. However, if it was, I would have probably gone Arteta, because one thing I know Arteta can do is help a team that's in struggling situation and build them into a team that can get into title races. We're still yet to know whether Amorim can do that in the Premier League. So if it's just because where my club is, I wouldn't not take him. I don't think he's a bad manager. So I'm not someone that thinks he's absolute dross. I think that is a too extreme of an opinion.
At the end of the year if he doesn't win anything, so
yes and no. So I want to answer this honestly. If you can get a manager that gives you a high level of confidence is better and can get you over the line, then yes. If it's someone you're umming and ahhing whether or not they're better than him, or whether or not they're going to take you forward, then I would say no. So I think it depends. I think you're at a point where it depends on who that you guys need a striker, but you need someone who's raising your level. If you're going to change Arteta, I think it has to be for a manager where there is a real sense of confidence that you're going to another level. For instance, when Ranieri, that was very close to winning Chelsea a league title, it was just the Invincibles that stopped him. When they went to Jose, it was considered by most a step up in terms of an individual. When City went from Pellegrini, who'd won them a league title, to Pep, you could see a clear improvement. So I think it would have to be for a manager where you go, we mean serious business here. So I don't think it's a case.
And that's why the owners are an issue,
just
because if
sacking
we
him.
did sack Arteta, they'd get Cesc Fabregas. That's what would happen with this ownership, mate. This ownership, they want the young manager, the progress manager. They won't go and get a young proven manager like a Xabi Alonso or a Ruben Amorim. They will go and get Cesc Fabregas, because that is the guy that they can use as the shield, as the shush yes man. And that's what this ownership's about, which is why it's on them. And look, I give Arteta a lot of stick, because I do believe that he does deserve some of it. I think he's been justified for how he's dumped us out of pretty much every single cup that he's ever tried to enter us in, other than the one that he won when he first won it. Other than that, I think he's done a good job getting us challenging, but I kind of seen us challenging for a long, long time. I need him to get across the line now. And if he doesn't, I don't think it is a bad, negative, toxic thing to say that we should be replacing him. I agree that it needs to be for a Simone
and that's where I think the conversation, it needs to be a sensible conversation, because look, the list here, Allegri. I don't think Allegri is a nothing's 100% guarantee, but I don't think he's a high enough percentile of a guarantee to get you over the line. I mean, he hasn't been, I would say, a manager at the elite level winning things now for what? How many years?
5 years, yeah.
You talk about Areola. Again, where's the pedigree of him getting a team over the line? What he's done at Bournemouth is amazing, but I don't think it's a big enough guarantee. Alonso, I think there's a very special. I think there's a special manager in there that went invincible with Bayer Leverkusen. I think that's someone. Again, then you mentioned Ancelotti. I don't think Ancelotti would choose Arsenal. I think he's going to retire at the end of this season. So it becomes a moot point. And this is why I think it's about, but
if you went to Ancelotti though, if he say he left Real Madrid right at the end of the year, because there has been rumours that he might leave at the end of the year. Yeah. And then Arsenal went 20 million. Give us 2 years. You're telling me to turn that down?
He might, again, if he would
40
say
million gross over 2 years, he'd definitely take that.
He might take it. He might take it, but if he's interested, he's interested. So yeah, if they can get him, then yes.
The truth is, you can't have this conversation about what manager takes over, because Slot's come out of nowhere, and won the league with Liverpool, and might win the Champions League, might win the Carabao Cup.
But I understand that. But I'm just talking from my perspective and giving my personal opinion. So again, I'm not in the boardroom doing the due diligence. If you're saying to me, would you? I mean, I'm not even an Arsenal fan, but would you sack Arteta? I can only give you my honest opinion. And the only time I would say yes to that is if I was confident. For instance, if Klopp didn't leave and you said to Liverpool fans at the end of last season, sack Klopp and go to Slot, or stick with Klopp, most would have said stick with Klopp because of what they know about him, and they would have felt it was too big of a risk. So I can only give an opinion based on how I feel about a particular manager.
Can I not flip that and say, is it not a risk keeping Arteta one more year if he doesn't win anything? When Saliba might look at it and go, you know what, we ain't winning anything, I'm leaving. Saka might think I'm leaving. Gabriel might go, I'm leaving.
You are spot on there, and I think that's where the conversation has to be honest. That's a really good point you raise. There is a chance that Arteta gets another year, and they do start to go backwards. The players say, we love him, but we've had enough of him. That happens in all walks of life in business, sport, family, whatever it may be. There's a chance that happens. Equally, you can change him and bring in Alonso. You can go to Ancelotti. You can go to a manager you think is going to make you better, and they could just take you backwards because it's a bad match, as an example. And I always feel like that's the disingenuous nature of this conversation, is that the ones that want him out, there's almost no thought for, but what if we actually get worse if we did that? Equally, the ones that want to keep him, there's never any thought of, well, what if the next guy's better? It's very, I think both conversations are disingenuous because nobody wants to have a grown-up conversation about those two areas because everything's driven by ideology. So for me, and someone said it's a bad analogy about the Klopp thing, I don't personally think that it is. You were not forced into that situation, but Klopp left. You had to bring in a new manager. I'm totally aware that you could go for someone currently managing in Germany that none of us really know who could take Arsenal over the line. That is plausible. But you're asking me to make a decision. And I'm not going to say yes to something when I don't know who this person is coming in or know enough about them. That would be a stupid opinion to just take a kind of a risk in this way. At the same time, again, we're fans and we have conversations about this. I always feel the conversations are just too heavily sided in either direction. And I think that Arsenal fans need to try and create spaces where the conversations are fair, open and honest. And we had a guy called Connor that phoned in at the end of last season, and he's the only gooner that I've personally come across who said, he goes, I want Arteta to go. He went, I love him, what he's built for us. I think he's a great guy, but I want to go on to somebody new. And someone on the panel said, well, what if it goes wrong? And he just said, I am completely open for it going wrong. I would rather, he said, I would rather risk it going wrong and we go backwards than just stay where we are. I'd like to take the risk. And I just thought, what a
great.
That's
great.
brave, man.
No,
That's
exactly, exactly. But for me, it was the most honest Arsenal opinion I would say I've heard in the last 3 years from a Gooner, where I find most of the inners and most of the outers, it's just, of course we'll go backwards if he leaves, or of course we'll go forward if he's sacked. And I just look at it and think, I think you're both being intellectually dishonest in that conversation. And Connor was the only guy who was like, yeah, but I'm willing to take that risk. And I thought, you can't argue. Yeah, I liked it. It was just honest. And I don't think the Arteta in and Arteta out debate is honest anymore. I think it's all about, I want to be right, as opposed to, let's just have an honest conversation as fans.